The stars had always been a distant promise to humanity, flickering with possibility, but cloaked in cold, silent mystery. That promise shattered the moment the fleet appeared. From the black depths beyond Earth's solar system, the Galactic Empire's ships emerged like a dark swarm, sleek, enormous, and unlike anything humanity had seen. Thousands of years of conquest, thousands of worlds under their iron fist. And now, they came to Earth. High above Earth, orbiting silently, the Empire's flagship Arbiter hung like a shadow over the blue planet. Inside, Supreme Commander Varric surveyed the swirling clouds and glowing cities below, a disdainful sneer twisting his pale lips. "Primitive," he muttered. "No species worth conquering. Just a warring, self-destructive dust ball." But that contempt masked uncertainty. The sensors detected sprawling urban centers, signs of advanced technology, and something far more troubling: active nuclear installations, dozens of them. Earth was not the backward world his predecessors had dismissed. On Earth, the sudden appearance of the Empire's fleet triggered global alarms. Governments scrambled their satellites and defense networks, quickly realizing they faced an intelligence and firepower vastly superior to anything humanity had ever encountered. In the United Nations headquarters in New York, Secretary General Lin stood before a hastily convened Security Council. The holographic image of the Arbiter loomed in the center of the room. "We do not know their intentions," she said grimly, "but their arrival is no accident. We must prepare." Across the world, a fragile alliance formed overnight. Nations that had long been rivals now united by a single imperative: survival. Hours later, the Empire's emissaries sent a transmission, an ultimatum dripping with cold imperial arrogance. Surrender. Submit to the Galactic Empire's will. Integrate into their order, or face annihilation. Humanity responded with silence. On the surface, in a secret underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus Trent stared at the transmission with narrowed eyes. "They don't know us. They don't understand what they're up against," he said quietly. "We'll show them." Elsewhere, scientists scrambled to activate and repurpose satellites, while military engineers worked frantically on weaponizing space debris. Civilians joined in, hacking networks, building improvised weapons, and preparing for a war no one had expected, but all feared. Then came the spark. An Empire scout ship, the Vigilant, approached the moon to survey Earth's defenses. What happened next remains disputed. Some say a rogue human fighter fired first. Others insist it was a tragic accident. But the result was the same: the brilliant flash, a fiery explosion, and 6 astronauts lost. The Earth-wide outcry was immediate and fierce. Governments declared a state of emergency. The fragile hope for peaceful coexistence shattered in an instant. The Galactic Empire, shocked by the human response, ordered a disciplinary fleet to Earth's orbit, a show of force meant to cow this defiant planet into submission. But the humans had already begun to fight. In orbit, humanity's first space fleet was assembled from converted military satellites, hastily built corvettes, and commandeered civilian shuttles. Their technology was crude, but their pilots were fiercely determined. Commander Ilara Mendoza stood on the bridge of the Corvette Falcon, gripping the railing as sensors lit up with the incoming Imperial fleet. Her voice was steady despite the tension. "They expect us to surrender. Let's give them a surprise instead." The first battle in orbit was unlike anything the Empire had encountered. The humans fought not with the precision of seasoned space warriors, but with relentless, unpredictable aggression. Using decoys, high-velocity debris, and daring maneuvers no galactic tactician had ever imagined. The Empire's flagship was rocked by kinetic strikes. A squadron of Falcon corvettes executed suicide runs, disabling key systems on the larger vessels. Explosions bloomed like deadly fireworks against the black. The Empire's commanders were stunned. "Such savagery, such recklessness," Varric growled. "They are animals." But those animals held the line, refusing to retreat. When the dust settled, 2 Empire warships lay in ruin, drifting in silent orbit. The rest retreated in confusion and rage. Back on Earth, news of the victory sent shockwaves of hope through the terrified population. "Humans have won the first battle," the broadcast declared. "The war for our survival has begun." Supreme Commander Varric stared out the viewport, his eyes cold and calculating. "They have spirit," he admitted softly. "But this is only the beginning. The Galactic Empire does not retreat." Yet even as he spoke, a small voice whispered in his mind, a warning he could not ignore. "They are unlike anything we've ever faced." And for the first time, the Empire felt uncertain. The night skies above Earth grew heavy with distant thunder, the ominous rumble of the Galactic Empire's wrath. Their victory lost, the Empire refused to concede defeat. Instead, they planned a crushing response that would break humanity's spirit once and for all. At the command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Marcus Trent paced relentlessly. "They'll come at us hard, and they'll come fast," he warned his staff. "We have no choice but to stand our ground." The sprawling cities of Earth braced for the onslaught. Evacuation orders were issued where possible, but millions remained, ready to fight or die for their home. When the first salvo hit, it was nothing short of apocalyptic. Massive orbital cannons unleashed streams of plasma bolts, scorching military installations and power grids. Major cities shook under bombardments, their skylines etched in fire and smoke. Humanity's sophisticated defense satellites intercepted many attacks, but not all. In London, a blast tore through the Thames barrier, flooding parts of the city. In New Delhi, communications went dark. Panic threatened to fracture the fragile unity forged in the past weeks. But amid the devastation, a new kind of resilience emerged. On the streets of Tokyo, Commander Ilara Mendoza rallied a militia of former police, soldiers, and civilians armed with whatever they could find. "We're not victims," she told them fiercely. "We're the storm they never expected." Using guerrilla tactics honed from centuries of conflict, humans struck back. Ambushes erupted in ruined cityscapes. Explosives ripped through enemy supply drops. Saboteurs hacked Empire drones mid-flight, turning them into flaming wrecks. The Empire's ground troops, genetically enhanced and highly trained, found themselves facing an enemy who did not flee, did not surrender, and fought with savage creativity. Meanwhile, underground bunkers across the globe became makeshift command centers. Scientists and engineers worked feverishly to develop countermeasures against the Empire's advanced weapons. In the deserts of Nevada, a team tested a weapon called the Firestorm, a rapid deployment plasma cannon designed to defend against orbital strikes. Its first test was a brutal success, lighting up the night sky as it intercepted an incoming volley. Despite the technological gap, humanity's greatest advantage was their unbreakable will. In a tense meeting at the UN's emergency session, Secretary General Lin spoke with quiet resolve. "We have no illusions," she said. "This will be a long and brutal war. But if we fall, all life on Earth ends. We fight not for glory, but for survival. And we will endure." Across the ocean, in the rubble of New York, families huddled together as sirens wailed. Children clung to parents. Soldiers comforted the fearful. The human spirit, battered but unbowed, kindled hope in the darkness. Back in orbit, Commander Ilara received grim intelligence. The Empire's fleet was regrouping for a larger assault, this time targeting Earth's space infrastructure and critical satellite arrays. On the bridge of the Falcon, she stared at the incoming fleet's signature, a deadly mix of dreadnoughts and frigates. "We need a plan that hits them where it hurts," she said. "If they think we'll just absorb the blow, they're dead wrong." Her team proposed a daring counterattack. Launch a fleet of small, fast ships armed with homemade kinetic weapons and cyber warfare drones. It was risky. Humans lacked the firepower and shields to match the Empire ship for ship, but their unpredictability was a weapon. The night before battle, Ilara walked among her crew. "Remember why we fight," she told them softly. not just for Earth, but for every person who believes freedom is worth dying for. When dawn broke, the space above Earth erupted in a violent storm. Human corvettes darted through debris fields, weaving between asteroid-like fragments the defenders had deployed as improvised shields. They launched volleys of projectiles, some simple metal rods, others packed with explosives, that smashed against the Empire's hulls. The Empire fleet responded with overwhelming firepower, targeting humans with deadly precision. Explosions bloomed, ships spiraled, and debris scattered like deadly shrapnel. Yet the humans fought on. Boarding parties, clad in armored exosuits, launched themselves onto crippled enemy vessels, fighting hand-to-hand in zero gravity. Plasma rifles flashed, and the hiss of cutting torches echoed through corridors. Aboard the Falcon, Ilara coordinated strikes and dodged attacks. A near miss rocked the bridge, sending her crashing to the deck, but she recovered quickly, barking orders with iron will. Hours passed like minutes as the battle raged. When the dust finally settled, the Empire's fleet was shattered. One dreadnought destroyed, several frigates disabled, and their forces forced into a chaotic retreat. Earth's ground forces watched the distant sparks in the sky, the last human ships slipping away, and felt a surge of victory. "This isn't over," General Trent warned over the global broadcast. But today, we showed the Empire that humans fight like nothing they've ever seen. In a dark chamber far from Earth, Supreme Commander Varric clenched his fists, his face a mask of rage and disbelief. "They are defiant, reckless, unstoppable," he growled. "Prepare the next phase. We will burn this world into submission." But beneath his fury, a seed of fear had taken root. Because humanity had learned something vital. The Galactic Empire might have thousands of years behind them, but humanity had something far deadlier. Their heart. The void between Earth and the Empire's fleet was a cold battlefield where silence screamed louder than any weapon. Here, amid drifting stars and the ghostly remains of destroyed ships, humanity's fledgling space fleet prepared for a fight that would change the course of the war. Commander Ilara Mendoza stood on the bridge of the Falcon, her eyes sharp, voice steady despite the tension thick in the air. The ship's systems beeped urgently. Radar picked up an Empire cruiser moving closer, its silhouette a sleek nightmare against the void. "This is it," Ilara said. "The moment they thought would be a slaughter. Let's make them regret underestimating us." Unlike the Empire's warships, built for domination and centuries of conquest, human vessels were jury-rigged from scavenged parts, retrofitted satellites, and converted freighters. Their shields were weak, their armor thin, but their crews had something no Empire soldier possessed: fierce determination and wild creativity, born from fighting for survival. As the cruiser loomed, the Falcon's fighters swarmed out, small, fast corvettes armed with railguns and plasma disruptors. They danced between debris fields, weaving unpredictable patterns that frustrated the Empire's targeting systems. The first volley from the cruiser's heavy cannons slammed into a human corvette, tearing it apart in a shower of sparks and flame. The crew's last radio transmission was a grim roar of defiance before silence swallowed them. Ilara clenched her jaw. "Hold formation," she ordered. "We're not just here to fight. We're here to win." Suddenly, a pulse from one of the Falcon's stealth drones struck the cruiser's communication array, blinding its sensors. The cruiser faltered, momentarily blind in the darkness. "Now," Ilara shouted. A squadron of human fighters surged forward, their plasma disruptors cutting into the cruiser's hull. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers as the cruiser rocked violently, its shields flickering. But the real fight was yet to come. Ilara gave the order. Boarding protocols initiated. In tight, zero-gravity chambers, Marines suited up in exoskeleton armor. Their weapons were brutal: plasma rifles, magnetic grappling hooks, and plasma cutters to slice through bulkheads. They were humanity's answer to the Empire's technological superiority. A small team willing to fight hand-to-hand in the enemy's lair. The airlock hissed open. Ilara led the first wave through the breach. Inside the cruiser, corridors flooded with red emergency lights. The clash was savage and chaotic. Human Marines burst through enemy ranks with fierce shouts, their weapons blazing. Alien soldiers, genetically engineered and coldly efficient, fought back with superior strength and weapons, but the humans were relentless, unpredictable. In one narrow corridor, Ilara faced down a towering alien officer wielding a plasma blade. She ducked under a vicious strike, firing her rifle at point-blank range. The officer staggered and collapsed, stunned by her ferocity. "Push forward," she yelled. "Take the command deck." Meanwhile, the Falcon and its corvettes circled the cruiser, fending off reinforcements and firing torpedoes that hammered the enemy's hull. The battle's tide was turning, but the cost was heavy. Explosions ripped through the Falcon's engines, throwing the ship into a wild spin. Smoke filled the bridge, alarms blared. Ilara slammed her fist on the console, fighting to maintain control. "Status report." The navigator grimly replied, "Engines at 40%. Shields down to 20%. We won't last long if they press the attack." "Send in reinforcements," Ilara ordered. "If we lose this cruiser, the Empire will come back stronger." As the boarding teams cleared the command deck, they found the Empire's captain, a cold, calculating figure, trying to activate a self-destruct protocol. Sergeant Lee, the lead Marine, tackled him just in time, forcing the alien's hand away from the controls. "No," the captain hissed. "You don't understand what you're doing. We will destroy you all." Lee tightened his grip, eyes blazing. "No, you just lost." With the command deck secured, human engineers began hacking the cruiser's systems, salvaging what they could. They found troves of data on Empire ship design, tactics, and weaknesses, a treasure trove for Earth's scientists. Back on the Falcon, Ilara allowed herself a brief moment of relief. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. In a private comm, she reported to General Trent. "Cruiser down. We took heavy losses, but we've crippled their fleet morale. They won't expect humans to fight like this." "Good work, Commander," Trent replied grimly. "Prepare for more battles ahead. The Empire will retaliate harder, but you've given humanity hope." Hope, a fragile, shining ember amid the cold darkness of space. As the Falcon limped back toward Earth's orbit, Ilara looked out at the stars, silent witnesses to a war that would shape the fate of worlds. For the first time, humanity had bled in the void, and they had not broken. They had become a force the Empire could no longer ignore. The hum of computers filled the subterranean lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, where the greatest minds on Earth worked around the clock. In a room lined with holo-screens and makeshift equipment, Dr. Amina Kaur stared at the data streaming before her. Alien technology scavenged from the crippled Empire cruiser. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Fragments of shimmering metal pulsed with energy, their surfaces shifting as if alive. The engineers had already begun reverse engineering power cores that defied known physics, energy sources compact yet nearly inexhaustible. "This could change everything," Amina whispered. "If we harness this technology, our defenses won't just hold. They'll push back." Around her, scientists and engineers exchanged weary but hopeful glances. The war was grinding humanity down, but these breakthroughs were their lifeline. Across the globe, other teams worked feverishly to adapt alien propulsion systems, promising to revolutionize Earth's aging space fleet. The galaxy's best minds united under a singular goal: to turn the tide against the Empire. Meanwhile, in the shadowed chambers of the Empire's command, Supreme Commander Varric's advisors argued fiercely. "The humans defy all logic," one spat. "Their primitive rage is unlike any resistance we faced. We underestimated them." Varric's pale eyes burned with cold fury. "We will not repeat that mistake." "But what of the alien species they harbor?" "Some of our captives whisper of alliances forming," another warned. If the humans inspire rebellion among the oppressed, then we crush it, Varric snapped, with fire. Back on Earth, the war's brutality forced unlikely alliances. Among the Empire's prisoners were members of the Zereth, a species enslaved for centuries. Their leader, Rilak, approached the human command with a desperate proposal. "Your fight is our fight," he said, eyes fierce with hope and bitterness. "The Empire's chains bind us all. Together, we can break them." General Marcus Trent weighed the offer carefully. Trust was a rare commodity in wartime, but humanity's cause was larger now. "We accept your alliance," Trent declared. "Freedom is worth any risk." From that moment, human spies and Zereth infiltrators began a shadow war, stealing secrets, sabotaging supply lines, and spreading misinformation through the Empire's networks. The galaxy was becoming a chessboard, and Earth was its most dangerous player. In one tense operation, a team led by Lieutenant Hannah Reyes boarded an abandoned Empire supply ship. Their mission: retrieve encrypted battle plans and plant false intel. The narrow corridors echoed with footsteps and whispered commands. They moved swiftly and silently, avoiding patrols with practiced ease. In the ship's data core, Hannah's fingers flew over the console, cracking the encrypted files. Suddenly, alarms blared. A trap. Empire soldiers swarmed in. The firefight was brutal and close quarters. Hannah's team fought with desperate tenacity, plasma bolts sizzling past as they made a harrowing escape, clutching the stolen data. Back in the lab, analysts decrypted the files. The information revealed the Empire's plan: a new weapon capable of devastating entire planets with a single strike, a terrifying doomsday device codenamed the Starbreaker. Earth's leaders faced a grim reality. If the Empire unleashed the Starbreaker, no city, no bunker, no fleet would survive. Secretary General Lind addressed the world. "Our survival depends on unity, courage, and innovation. We must stop the Starbreaker before it's too late." Amid the urgency, humanity's scientists raced to adapt the stolen alien tech into weapons and defenses capable of countering the Empire's impending assault. Prototypes of energy shields, advanced ag-targeting systems, and new propulsion drives moved from theory to reality at breakneck speed. But every advance was shadowed by risk. The Empire's spies hunted for traitors. Saboteurs lurked in the shadows. Trust was fragile. Commander Ilara Mendoza found herself navigating not just space battles but political intrigue. Reports of dissent within the United Nations, debates over how far humanity should go in embracing alien technology, and ethical questions about the war's cost gnawed at her resolve. One night, in a quiet moment aboard the Falcon, she confided in Dr. Kaur. "How do we fight when the enemy is everywhere? In space, in politics, in our own ranks?" Amina's reply was steady, eyes shining with conviction. "Because we fight for each other, for Earth, for the future no empire can steal." The fire of resistance burned brighter, even as the shadow of the Starbreaker loomed. Far from Earth, Supreme Commander Varric prepared the next phase of the war, a campaign to crush the alliances and snuff out hope. But the seeds of rebellion had taken root, and the galaxy was awakening. The war was no longer just Earth's. It was a battle for freedom itself. The fragile glow of victory that had begun to illuminate humanity's dark days now flickered with growing uncertainty. In the heart of the human coalition, shadows moved, whispers of betrayal, sabotage, and broken trust threatening to unravel everything. Commander Ilara Mendoza returned from a brutal skirmish on the fringes of the Empire's occupied zones, her body bruised but spirit unyielding. The battlefield was harsh, scarred cities, shattered hopes, but her crew's resilience was unbreakable. Yet, back in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, unease simmered. A series of unexplained failures had compromised several critical operations: a weapon prototype destroyed overnight, encrypted transmissions intercepted, and supply routes ambushed. General Marcus Trent paced in his office, eyes grim. "We have a leak," he said bluntly during a security briefing. Someone inside our ranks is feeding information to the Empire. Silence followed, heavy and cold. The room's officers exchanged nervous glances. No one spoke. The idea of betrayal within was unthinkable, yet impossible to ignore. Ilara's communicator beeped urgently. A coded message from an anonymous source warned of a planned strike against the Earth Command Center itself. "Someone wants to cripple us from within," Ilara said, voice tight with suspicion. "We need to find them, before it's too late." Meanwhile, in the depths of the city, a shadowy figure slipped through narrow alleys. Kalen, a former intelligence officer turned double agent, moved with practiced stealth. His loyalty was a maze of motives: survival, revenge, and a twisted sense of justice. Kalen's eyes flickered with conflicted fire as he transmitted intercepted plans to the Empire's agents. Yet beneath the cold exterior lay a man torn between two worlds, haunted by choices that could cost billions of lives. As Earth's leaders convened an emergency session, Rilak, the Zereth leader, voiced a harsh truth. "Betrayal is a poison that spreads faster than any weapon. We must root it out, or everything we've fought for will perish." The Alliance launched an internal investigation, deploying cyber forensic teams to trace the leaks. Every communication was scrutinized, every personnel record reviewed. In the meantime, preparations for the Empire's next assault accelerated. The Starbreaker's ominous shadow loomed, and there was no time for distractions. Ilara, determined to shield her crew and the Coalition, requested a discreet team to investigate the traitor. Among them was Lieutenant Hannah Reyes, known for her sharp instincts and unwavering loyalty. Their search led them through layers of deception, false trails, tampered evidence, and whispers of conspiracy. Each clue deepened the mystery and raised more questions. Late one night, Hannah uncovered a hidden cache of encrypted files buried within the command center's mainframe. She worked feverishly, her fingers flying over the keyboard until the data decrypted. What she found was a web of collusion linking high-ranking officials to the Empire's shadow network. Shocked, Hannah confronted Ilara immediately. "There are people in power playing both sides," she said. "We need to act. Now." Ilara's jaw tightened. This isn't just treason. It's a threat to everything humanity stands for. Together, they coordinated a covert operation to expose the conspirators. On a rainy night, in the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the command center, Ilara led a team to detain the suspects. The tension was suffocating as they navigated dim corridors, weapons drawn. The arrests shocked the Coalition. Trusted leaders stripped of rank, public trust shattered. General Trent addressed the world in a somber broadcast. "Today, we faced betrayal in our own ranks, but we will not falter. Our unity, our courage, that is humanity's true strength." Yet, even as the traitors fell, the damage was done. The Empire, informed of internal chaos, seized the opportunity. Orbital weapons fired, striking Earth's defenses with renewed ferocity. Cities burned, power grids faltered, and millions faced death once more. Ilara, aboard the Falcon, led a desperate counterattack to protect the planet's final strongholds. Through the chaos, she sent a message to her crew: steady, fierce, unyielding. "We fight not just for survival, but for trust, for hope. We are humanity's shield." In the quiet moments between battles, Ilara wrestled with doubt. The enemy's cruelty was matched only by the fragility of human loyalty. But deep inside, a fire burned. A fire that refused to be extinguished. For in the darkest nights when betrayal threatened to consume them all, humanity's true strength was their ability to stand together, even when everything else fell apart. And so, the war continued, not just against an empire, but against the shadows within. The hum of tension vibrated through Earth's command centers and warships alike. Intelligence had confirmed the Empire's worst nightmare. The Starbreaker was no longer a distant threat. It was nearing operational readiness. In a cavernous underground complex near Geneva, scientists worked feverishly to analyze the schematics stolen from the Empire's cruiser. The Starbreaker was unlike any weapon humanity had ever imagined. An orbital superlaser capable of annihilating entire continents in a single searing blast. Dr. Amina Kaur stared at the projections, her voice tight with urgency. If this weapon fires, Earth will be reduced to ash in minutes. We must find a way to stop it before it ever fires. Across the globe, Earth's military braced for a new level of devastation. Cities fortified, fleets mobilized, and civilians were evacuated in waves. The war had escalated from survival to extinction. Commander Ilara Mendoza stood on the bridge of the Falcon, watching the distant glow of the Empire's capital ship, the Starbreaker's flagship. It was a towering colossus, bristling with turrets and shields, an iron fortress in the void. "This is more than a battle for Earth," Ilara said. "It's a battle for every living thing under the Empire's boot." Her orders were clear. Lead a strike team to infiltrate the Starbreaker, disable its weapon systems, and cripple the Empire's flagship before it could unleash catastrophe. The plan was audacious, perhaps reckless, but failure meant annihilation. As the Falcon approached the Starbreaker, the void exploded in a symphony of fire and fury. Fleet battles erupted, laser bolts streaking through space like deadly shooting stars. Human fighters darted between debris and enemy fire, their engines screaming defiance. Ilara's team launched boarding pods, hurtling toward the Starbreaker's hull. Impact was violent. The ship shuddered, alarms blaring. Inside, the corridors were a maze of steel and shadows. The air hummed with energy from the massive weapon at the ship's core. Guard patrols were relentless, but the boarding party moved swiftly, neutralizing threats with precision. Deeper in the vessel, Ilara confronted the Starbreaker's chief engineer, a cold, calculating figure who revealed the weapon's true horror. "The Starbreaker doesn't just destroy," he said, voice void of emotion. "It erases existence. Nothing remains. No life, no memory, no trace." The crew's resolve hardened. They would not let this nightmare unfold. As engineers began planting explosives on the weapon's core, alarms shrieked. A countdown had begun. "Abort mission," a voice ordered over the comms. "The self-destruct sequence is active." Chaos erupted. Ilara's team scrambled, racing against time. Explosions rocked the ship as they fought their way back to the Falcon. In the final moments, as the Starbreaker began to collapse inward, Ilara's pod launched away just as the flagship erupted in a blinding nova of fire. The blast shook the Falcon, but it survived. Earth's forces watched the distant light of the Starbreaker's destruction, and with it, a spark of hope. Yet, the victory was bittersweet. The Empire's wrath only grew fiercer. Supreme Commander Varric, furious beyond measure, vowed revenge. "They have destroyed our weapon of extinction. They will pay with their worlds." Back on Earth, amidst the ruins and resilience, humanity prepared for the war ahead. Scared, but unbroken, for they had faced the Starbreaker's shadow and lived to fight another day. The Starbreaker's destruction sent ripples through the galaxy like a shockwave of hope. For the first time, the Empire's invincibility was truly shattered. Across countless star systems, oppressed worlds stirred, whispering of rebellion and freedom. On Earth, the cost had been immense. Cities lay in ruin, millions mourned, but the human spirit burned brighter than ever. Commander Ilara Mendoza stood before a crowd gathered in New Geneva, her voice steady and strong. "This is not the end," she declared. "It is the beginning. The beginning of a fight for freedom that no empire can extinguish." Her words ignited a flame in the hearts of many. In the shadows of the Empire's vast dominion, secret cells of rebels and dissidents found courage. Led by figures like Rilak of the Zereth and human allies like Lieutenant Hannah Reis, the resistance began to grow beyond Earth's borders. Communication networks built with stolen alien tech spread messages of hope and strategy. Covert operations sabotaged supply lines, freed prisoners, and rallied more to the cause. Yet the Empire was relentless. Supreme Commander Varric unleashed brutal crackdowns, seeking to snuff out dissent before it could grow. Entire planets suffered under martial law. But resistance only hardened. In a hidden base on the moon Titan, Ilara convened with the resistance leaders. The room was alive with tension and determination. "We've won a great battle, but the war is far from over," Ilara said. "The Empire will strike back harder than ever." Rilak nodded. "Their reach is vast, but so is our resolve. We must unite the scattered forces, humans, Zereth, and all who oppose tyranny." Plans formed for a coordinated assault on the Empire's key strongholds, strategic strikes designed to cripple their command infrastructure and buy time for liberation efforts. In the days that followed, the Resistance launched daring raids. Fleets of human and alien ships struck swiftly and vanished into the starfields. Intelligence gathered from the Starbreaker's remains gave them critical advantages. Lieutenant Hanna led a mission to free a hidden colony enslaved by the Empire. The fight was brutal. Gunfire echoed through underground tunnels, but hope blossomed as captives reclaimed their freedom. Back on Earth, the Coalition rallied the world's nations into a united front. Borders faded, old rivalries set aside. Humanity's survival depended on unity and sacrifice. In a quiet moment, Ilara reflected on the journey. From the first desperate battle in space to this rising tide of resistance. The faces of those lost haunted her, but so did the faces of those who fought on. She vowed to lead them to a future where no empire could threaten freedom again. Yet, amid the hope, a shadow lingered. Supreme Commander Varric was gathering his forces for a final devastating campaign, a reckoning that would test humanity's courage to its limits. As the stars watched silently, the stage was set. The final battle for the galaxy's soul was coming. The cold void of space was pierced by the thunder of war. The combined fleets of Earth and their allies surged forward, their hulls scared but spirits unyielding. At their center, the Falcon led the charge, Commander Ilara Mendoza gripping the command console with a mix of steel and hope. Across the galaxy, countless worlds watched, holding their breath. This battle was not just for survival, it was for freedom, for the right to chart their own destinies beyond the Empire's shadow. Supreme Commander Varric's dreadnoughts awaited them, a wall of firepower and cold precision. The Empire's forces had been regrouped and reinforced, their hatred sharpened by the loss of the Starbreaker. Varric himself stood on the bridge of the flagship Oblivion, eyes like burning coals, ready to end the rebellion once and for all. The battle began with a blinding fury. Lasers lanced through the darkness. Plasma torpedoes arsed in deadly arcs. Explosions bloomed like supernova as ships collided, danced, and fell. Ilara's voice was steady, rallying her crew. "Hold the line. Protect the fleet. We fight for Earth, for all those who cannot." The Falcon weaved through the chaos, its fighters darting like swarming hornets, targeting enemy turrets and carriers. Lieutenant Hanna Rice led boarding parties to cripple dreadnought systems, their courage a beacon amid the carnage. Amid the turmoil, Rilak's Zereth warriors struck from unexpected vectors, their ships fast and silent, dismantling the Empire's communications and supply vessels. But Varric was relentless. His flagship unleashed a devastating beam, tearing through the Falcon's shields, throwing it off course. Systems flickered, alarms screamed. Ilara gritted her teeth. "Divert power to engines. We're not done yet." With desperate ingenuity, the crew stabilized the Falcon, returning fire with upgraded plasma disruptors, scavenged from the Starbreaker's remains. Every strike was a message. Humanity would not fall quietly. Below decks, a covert team led by Ilara herself prepared for the final mission. Infiltrate the Oblivion, confront Varric, and end the war. The team boarded a stealth pod, slipping past heavy defenses. Inside the dreadnought's cold corridors, they fought their way through genetically enhanced guards and automated sentries. Each step was a gamble. One mistake could mean annihilation. Finally, they reached the bridge. Varric awaited them, a figure carved from shadows and rage. His voice was a low growl. "You cannot win. The Empire is eternal." Ilara's reply was steel. "Empires fall. And when they do, it's because people dared to stand against them." The confrontation was brutal. Varric wielded a plasma blade with deadly precision, but Ilara's team fought with the desperation and hope of a species fighting for its future. In the chaos, Ilara confronted Varric directly. Their blades clashed, sparks flying in the dim light. "You could end this now," Varric snarled. "Join me. Rule the galaxy." "I'd rather die free," Ilara shot back, her blade finding its mark. With Varric defeated, the dreadnought systems began to fail. The Resistance seized control, broadcasting a message to all Empire forces. The reign of tyranny was over. As the battle waned, survivors from both sides looked up to the stars, uncertain yet hopeful. Back on Earth, the Coalition celebrated, but knew the true work had just begun, rebuilding, healing, and forging a future where no empire could ever enslave them again. Ilara stood on the Falcon's deck, gazing at the rising sun, a symbol of new beginnings. The war was over. Humanity had won, not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to give up, because they fought for freedom, because they believed.